So the biggest what the moment in games is definitely The Last of Us with the ending, which I won't go into here because we've all heard it a million times. The Joel's choice at the end of that game is absolutely catastrophic, and it comes out in so many different perspectives that you could talk about it forever. But we all know that. The most recent one for me, which I thought was like, oh my God, how did I not pick up on this? It's so crazy, was Red Dead Redemption 2 and Arthur's storyline culminating with the tuberculosis and then realizing that the inception point was his terrible deeds in the past. So when he's a debt collector for the gang, he goes and beats up this man, I believe it's Thomas Downs, who is ill, he's got tuberculosis. And by beating him up, that's the inception point of him getting sick and getting this cough and then eventually dying, and him trying to become a better man and have this redemption arc and do all these things and realizing the error of his ways culminates basically in realizing that he has doomed himself by doing these terrible things in the past. And the way that it's portrayed and inferred throughout the narrative is just, oh, chef's kiss. You just think he's ill. You just think, oh my God, okay, Arthur's ill now, cool, that's a great left turn. That was a big what the f*** moment. And then realizing that it was of his own doing is just so cleverly and wonderfully implemented throughout that I was like, oh, Arthur, no, afterwards. It was so good. It was so good. That's the biggest one. Biggest?
Well, sadly, Rich, mine is in a game that doesn't even really exist. Wendy?
Yet.
Check out the news, which may be weeks old by this point, but who knows?
When
Hideo Kojima and Konami dropped PT, the playable teaser for Silent Hills, like, we take it for granted now how that just happened. That came out of nowhere originally. He essentially just said, oh, by the way, there's this thing you can play on the PlayStation, download it, have a good time. We all got very scared, and after hours and hours and hours of throwing yourself against a brick wall of these intensely dense and obtuse puzzles, someone finally got to the end of the trailer to realize that it wasn't just an untitled horror game. It wasn't just a new project from Hideo Kojima. It was in fact Silent Hills. And that title still doesn't make any sense because I don't know what that means. Is the one Silent Hill? Is the two Silent Hills? How does it fit in the Silent Hill timeline? I don't know. But it was too exciting to have this franchise, which, to put it into context, had been done dirty for quite a lot of years beforehand. There had been a lot of Silent Hill games, but there hadn't really been a great one since, in my opinion, since around Silent Hill 3. So this is years and years of, all the right entries and follow-ups. So to finally get a new one that looks completely different, that was scary as hell, and had a bunch of talent in like Norman Reedus, Guillermo del Toro, Hideo Kojima, that was unfathomably tantalizing, and it's exciting to talk about it now, but it was even crazier at the time when you didn't know that was the case, and then the end title just revealed what could have been, and sadly, we'll never know what could have been because it might not be made unless you've been watching WhatCulture Gaming and checked out the news, which is definitely weeks old by this point, but it might be happening.
The one moment that made me genuinely sit mouth agape looking at my screen was in my first playthrough, and actually only playthrough, of Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus. Because towards the end of that game, it's not really a spoiler. You've just done what kind of constitutes as the final boss fight, which was just fight a load of big dudes on top of a zeppelin or whatever it was, and it's like, cool, that's the most anticlimactic ending before the actual anticlimactic ending. But you have to get to the controls of the ship. And as you get there as BJ Blazkowicz, you go there, you press a few buttons, and the doors behind you open, and there's like a bunch of soldiers, some big dudes, there's a Panzerhund, and you're thinking, oh Christ, I'm a bit screwed here. But then all of a sudden, your very, very pregnant wife, Anya, bursts in through the door, you get knocked to the ground, she mounts you, pulls out 2 assault rifles, rips her clothes off, and starts mowing down these Nazis. And there's BJ like on the floor, pulling the same face as me, going, what? And all you've got, we can't show this unless we blur it or something, and you've literally just got you're from BJ's perspective, there's your pregnant wife, boobs out, covered in blood, screaming with these rifles, and it's like, okay.
Gaming.
That was a thing, and it's like, because there's a point in the first game when you and Anya first get a little bit frisky with each other, and on the train it's like, there's a bit of booby there, there's a bit of booby there. You got all the way through Wolfenstein 2 and it's like, where's the booby? There's the booby. The booby scene was there. I've not played through Youngblood, all the way through, so I don't know whether you get boobies in Youngblood, but there were in Wolfenstein 2, and it was weird. Ben Roy, are there boobies in Youngblood?
There are no boobs in Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Good, I didn't finish it.
So I'm going to cheat for this one because, I mean, there's not really any rules and I'm not going to be put in sort of like gaming prison or anything. So I'm just going to go from a selection of moments of Death Stranding. So if you've not played the game and you care, like maybe just mute this and don't switch off because we really want the view because, you know, that ad money. So let's start off with BB. If you ever check on BB when BB is in the containment, in like when you're in the safe room, like the sanitary room, the room where Kojima gets to just look at Norman Reedus. By the way, that's one. Norman Reedus going and all that sort of thing in the mirror. But BB, when you poke it, one time it'll just, Del Toro's face will just appear on BB and BB will become Del Toro, which is like, what? That was the one to like. Yeah, if you look up, yeah, if you poke it, it just looks up, goes, wah, and then it just becomes Del Toro, and you're like, what the f*** is that? And then just out of nowhere, and like the room gets all dark and red and scary. Another one, like Fragile in the Rain, getting sent out in her clothes, like, you know, I mean, you've got to have a bit of Kojima in this while we put a woman in an awkward situation. So send Fragile in the Rain and just destroy her body. I mean, fair, that explains why she's always covered up and stuff. But I mean, that was more like a real story impactful one that I thought was actually well executed, but with Kojima's past was a bit weird. Let's kind of shoot through some of these. Deadman. Now, Deadman really, really likes Sam Porter Bridges, and he loves talking about himself. He loves just appearing because he's a hologram for most of it. But then one time, it's just hologram Deadman again. Nope, he's actually there. And what does he do? Rams you into a shower. Gets you right in that shower, turns the water on, and gets really close to Sam. And Sam doesn't know what's going on. Sam's like, as Deadman is just really up in his grill. Turns out, don't want to. I was going to say Mr. Die Hardman to hear, so that's why, you know, get in the shower, turn the water on, but it's all played really straight as some sort of weird event is about to play out. I'll let you watch that clip and decide for yourself. It's just, we've gone through this before, and I'll just have to do one more because I know Scott has already picked apart Mario and Princess Peach, so I'm just going to go to, when you fight Higgs, that fight starts off simple, throw a couple of suitcases. I mean, what else are you going to do in Death Stranding? You're not going to shoot someone. You kill someone, you ruin everything. But when the fight turns into an actual fighting game, that is fucking awesome. Like the whole, reminiscent of Metal Gear Solid 4, the old punch up. And this isn't one you can just like sort of spam and win. It's really played out, so sure, you've got to do something, but it takes you down both to the very end. And just seeing Troy Baker's face go, like that, it's just amazing. And just actually getting that hood off that boy for once and seeing what's actually scribbled on his head. Excellent fight, excellent sort of setup, and I really loved how that played out. I just love punching Troy Baker for a bit, even though he's a lovely man. And so is Norman Reedus. I really want to see them in the game again and stuff. So yeah, what the f***?
Oh god, WTF moments, it has to be Metal Gear Solid 4, and it's 5 micro entries for this, the claw of embarrassment, because there's just so much stuff to delve into. I'm going to start with the monkey that just accompanies this dude called Drebin, super secret top spy guy Mr. Drebin. He's accompanied by a coke drinking monkey in like a nappy, a diaper for the Americans, who's called Little Grey, and he just pops up doing his little ha ha ha, that's my monkey noise, and he just pops in, and he's there, and I love him, he's great. The stuff where it gets weird as hell is every time you fight a boss in that game, they're a callback to 2 previous bosses from Metal Gear Solid 1 and either 2 or 3. So there's like Screaming Mantis and Laughing Octopus and things like that. And every single one of them, they're always a beautiful woman, because they have to be, because Hideo Kojima, this is going to sound more mad as I recant this, Hideo Kojima went out there, casting call, and hired various beautiful women, like actual models, to come in and be the bosses for that game. But they all get their origin story, which you find out after you've beaten them. So after they've cried and screamed and, you know, been in pain for a while, you find out that they were actually like war orphans, or just sort of, you know, like people who've been abused and stuff, and they all sort of decided, look, I want to get into a big old mech suit with a big, you know, octopus-like head, and I'm going to hunt down Old Snake. And that's the story in Metal Gear Solid 4. So every one of those bosses is like a weird half-animal abuse victim combo, nice little horror horrible cocktail, and it's just bad. It was less bad when you're younger, but then when you start thinking about it, it's just the absolute worst. And there's a whole thing where he gave the wolf like a nice arse, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Just because there's a woman in there? I don't need it in my life. So, yeah.
You're telling me you've never wanted to f*** a wolf?
I hadn't, no.